All right, I'm going to finish the reading of Vayetzei. I'm on verse 6 and the I believe 5th reading of the Torah portion. All right, let us begin. Verse 6 of chapter 31, verse 6 in the Torah portion of Vayetzei of the book of Genesis. Now you have known. I'll just start from verse 4. Jacob sent and summoned Rachel and Leah to the field to his flock, and said to them, I have noticed that your father's disposition is not toward me as in earlier days, but the God of my father was with me. Now you have known that with all my might I worked for your father. Yet your father mocked me and changed my wage 10 countings. But God did not permit him to harm me. Verse 6. Verse 7, Rashi, 10 countings. Countings are no less than 10. Countings, this means total, the entire sum. They are tens, groups of 10. This has taught us that Laban changed Jacob's terms 100 times. Verse 8, Torah, if he would say, speckled ones shall be your wages, then the entire flock bore speckled ones. And if he would say, ringed ones shall be your wages, then the entire flock bore ringed ones. Thus, God took away your father's livestock and gave them to me. It happened at the mating time of the flock that I raised my eyes and saw in a dream. Behold, the he-goats that mounted the flock were ringed, speckled, and striped. Verse 10, Rashi, behold, the he-goats. Although Laban had separated all of them, so that the flocks should not conceive in their semblance, the angels would bring them from the herd that was given over into the hand of the sons of Laban to the herd that was in the hand of Jacob. And striped, this is to be understood as Targum Onkelos renders it, literally, and open ones, facir in Old French. A band of white goes all the way around its body. Its spotting, the set of spots that compose the band, is open without interruption from one to the other. But I cannot bring evidence from Scripture for this definition. Verse 13, Torah. Actually, verse 12 or 11, Torah. An angel of God said to me in the dream, Jacob. And I said, here I am. And he said, raise your eyes, if you please, and see that all the he-goats mounting the flocks are ringed, speckled, and striped. For I have seen all that Laban is doing to you. Verse 13, Torah. I am God of Bethel, where you anointed pillar, where you vowed a vow to me. Now, arise, leave this land and return to the land of your birth. Verse 13, Rashi, God of Bethel. This is the equivalent of El and El. This is bet. Without the prefix, without the hey prefix. The letter hey is superfluous and is not the definite article. But it is the style of Scripture to speak in this manner. As the hey of this word, when you come to the land of Canaan. Where you anointed? This denotes promotion and eminence, like one anointed to be king. Similarly, Jacob poured oil on the top of the pillar for it to be anointed as an altar. Where you vowed a vow to me, and you must pay it, for you said, shall be a house of God, which implies that you will bring offerings there. Verse 14, Torah. Then Rachel and Leah replied and said to him, have we still a share and an inheritance in our father's house? Are we not considered by him as strangers, for he has sold us, and he has even totally consumed our money. Verse 14, and have we still? Why should we stop you from returning? Do we look forward at all to inherit anything from our father's property among the males, along with his male descendants? Verse 15, are we not considered by him as strangers, for he has sold us, and he has even totally consumed our money. Verse 15, Rashi, are we not considered by him as strangers? Even at a time when it is the practice of people to give a dowry to their daughters. At the time of marriage, he treated us like strangers, for he has sold us to you as wages for the labor you provided him. Our money, for he withheld the money due for the wages of your labor. Verse 16, Torah, rather, all the wealth that God has taken away from our father belongs to us and to our children. So now, whatever God has said to you, do. Verse 16, and Rashi, rather, all the wealth. This instance of the word serves in the sense of rather, as if to say, from that which is our father's, we have nothing. Rather, that which the Holy One, blessed be he, has taken away from our father is ours, has taken away. This means separated. Similarly, any term related to this word, which generally means saving or rescuing, in Scripture means separating in a certain sense, for he separates the one being saved from evil and from the enemy. And that is the end of the 5th reading in the book of Vayetzei, in the book of portion of Vayetzei in the book of Bereshit. All right. So let us read from the wisdom of the Vayetzei Rebbe on the Parshiot. All right. We are in the 5th reading. Genesis, what I just read was Genesis chapter 30, verse 28 through chapter 31, verse 16. Jacob earned his livelihood primarily by tending sheep. He later used his surplus of sheep to buy bondwomen, bondmen, camels, and donkeys. The title of this wisdom is called Ensuring Our Primary Asset. Jacob became exceedingly prosperous. He owned prolific flocks. Jacob worked primarily with sheep because sheep submit humbly to the direction of their shepherd. They are, therefore, a metaphor for the humble submission of God's will that we must cultivate in order to keep our spiritual bearings during our sojourn with Laban, that is, when we are involved in the mundane world. Nonetheless, selflessness alone is not enough to fulfill our divine mission. We must also employ the more advanced aspects of our personality. These are alluded to by the bondwomen, bondmen, camels, and donkeys that Jacob later bought. Making use of these other aspects of ourselves involves acting with self-awareness and self-assertion. By cultivating self-assertion could undermine the self-negation that we need in order to succeed in our encounter with Laban. Jacob therefore purchased each of these aspects with sheep, meaning that his use of these aspects was based on and infused with the selflessness characteristic of sheep. This is also why Jacob continued to maintain sheep as his primary asset, and likewise, we should value our sheep attitude as our basic approach to life, so that our actions will always be permeated with selflessness. All right, and that is the reading of the wisdom of the Lubavitcher Rebbe on the Parshiot. Laila Tov.